Everybody, welcome to the October 7th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. In compliance with the Open Meetings Act, a current copy of this act is posted in the meeting room. Madam Clerk, will you please call roll?
Alarcon? Here. Barr?
Here.
Freshour?
Here.
Keemer?
Here.
Jablonski?
Here.
Lopez? Roth?
Here.
Schilling?
Here.
Council President Jablonski, the roll has been called.
Thank you. Appears we have one item, presentation by BVH Architects on the Memorial Stadium improvements. Who do we got? Rick, Betsy, who's taking charge of this?
Yep, this is Matt from BVH. He'll go ahead and start for us.
Perfect. All right, well, thanks for having us. I'm Matt Smith with BVH Architecture. I have Andrew Meyer with BVH as well with us tonight. So we really just wanted to give everyone an update on the work that we've done to date for the Columbus State Memorial Stadium project. Currently, we are taking this through schematic design, so we've done initial conceptual design and community engagement. So we'll walk through everything that we really have up to today. So we'll review all the community engagement that we've done. We've had a lot of successful outreach to the community with a lot of actually really good positive feedback for what we've brought to the table. So then we'll just go through the design as we go look at the site plan, the area around that we're working with, the floor plan itself, so what the proposed adjustments and modifications to the stadium are. We've done some just initial exterior design work as well. And then we did have sent this off to a third-party estimator to get like high-level kind of ranges of potential costs. And we've broken all this out into a phased approach. So this could be kind of like you could take a bite-sized chews of the project as you move forward with it. And then we'll just
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yep.
Real quickly. Could you raise the podium and raise the microphone a bit so that the audience and myself can hear you a little better?
All right.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Much
Hey,
better.
That's better. So, all right. So with that, community engagement. So we've had a town hall in this room here back in May. We've had some surveys. We were at the Columbus Days. We had a booth there just to kind of present everything that's been going on to date. And really all this is just an effort to gain feedback from the community, understand where are the pinch points, what are the needs, what are the wants, desires, and whatnot, as well as meeting with Rick and Betsy and Braden and Tom Eck. So, and then we had a meeting last week with Columbus High just to follow up and understand what they are looking for. And then we actually have a meeting with SCOTUS tomorrow morning to do the same. So, town hall meeting I noted was in May, so that was well attended. We had a couple stations set up around the room, mostly to understand what are the current needs of the facility. This was before we started really diving into the current design that we'll review here in a second. But really just kind of getting some background understanding of what's working, what's not working, what is the community looking for with potential upgrades to the stadium facility itself. We also had a survey from that night that was posted to the various social media channels for Columbus and Game Parks or Parks and Rec. So we had 93 responses on that survey. If the full list, we can send all this stuff. We'll send all this stuff out to the full, all the questions and all the answers as well. But overwhelmingly, yes, a lot of people needed more information, but heading in the right direction. And then just some overall kind of high levels from that initial survey. So restrooms, parking, your typical things that you would hear with the facility. Just making sure that those are upgraded, and the parking was a big one, just making sure that it's organized from where it's currently sitting today. ADA accessibility improvements was a big item, and we'll walk through with the plans of how we're addressing that. Currently, there's just kind of a side area on the stadium for ADA accessible seating. So really looking at integrating that into the main seating areas themselves. And then really trying to create some unique spaces for those community and youth events that are taking place there currently, but also potential events and activities that can take place with potential upgrades as you go into the future here. Next community engagement we had was we had a booth over at Columbus Days. So we had quite a few people stop by. We had plans and renderings just of where we were at that point, and just really again to understand the pinch points as far as the current facility goes, but also to understand is this kind of heading in the right direction or whatnot. So we had a lot of kind of similar things about the parking. We learned a couple things about how the facility is being used that we didn't understand before. I think there's a motorcycle lineup before I think the high games, so understanding that needs to be accounted for as well. So and really just got a lot of kind of good general feedback from the public at that event, and they were able to see what was going on with the city as well. And then we also had, along with that, another online survey. So this was a shorter survey. We had images of what we had worked up to date, and again, pretty overwhelming consensus that people liked the direction that it was being, that the project was headed in, and the amenities that were being provided. Any questions on the engagement to date? Yep.
Being able to determine which direction everybody's going, or is it need to be higher?
For the survey.
For the survey.
The survey.
Yeah, I mean, we always would like more sample sizes. I would say with similar things that we've done, it is a fairly decent turnout as far as the number of responses we've gotten back from there. The number of people who were at the first town hall, I think we probably had about 50 people show up, which was a good turnout for what we experience typically when we go and do other projects similar to this. As always, we can open these back up and do encourage to keep them open as we keep developing, so we can gain even more and more feedback from everyone. So.
Okay, I just think we need more numbers as far as.
Yep.
As far going out to the community and saying, yeah, this is what it is. You know, where we had 112 people say we need to go do it. I think it needs to be more than that. That's only my feeling.
Yep. So we'll show you a little bit of just what we've done to date as far as the concept side goes. So just a little introduction into where we're working, what we're working with as far as the extents go. So here's the existing stadium itself. So the red dash line is outlining the actual perimeter of kind of scope of extents that this project is covering. So it is covering the home side, existing stadium, the parking lot area, a little bit of the tennis facilities. We'll get into that as far as the existing restroom and the canopy, and then looking at kind of the access from the various roads coming into the stadium itself. We're not looking at the recently renovated football field or track, or the visitor side bleachers, or the visitor shared amenity building that was recently built. So that's all kind of, it's good to go. It's serving its purpose. So just, I know pretty much everyone has been there, but just some existing context as far as what we're in. So a really nice lush park setting. So it's a really unique environment as far as a stadium goes. Not many like this in Nebraska, for sure. Some of the other historic elements within the park itself, and then the stadium itself. So as we start to get into it, I'll stop here for a second. What we're looking at doing, or what we're proposing, is the front kind of 2000s addition. Looking at proposing to remove that. There's some leaking and some other conditions that are not prohibitive of trying to reuse the space. But we are looking to maintain the original 1945 stadium itself. It's in really good condition. It was built to last when it was built. And we do feel that it has that historical significance to the city, that we can maintain that and really start to emphasize that with the design as we start to look into the project a little bit further. And again, just some more views of that. So then that ADA seating on the top image to the right, you can see that's where the ADA seating on the home side currently is located. So looking at integrating that more into the stadium itself. So this is the current proposed site plan design. So really what we're looking at here, I'll try to highlight as best I can. There it is. So really what we're showing here, and we'll get into the design itself, but this starts to become the proposed footprint of the new stadium itself. And due to this, this is pushing out into that existing road that goes in front of the stadium right now. We are proposing to push that road out further towards the tennis courts, so you actually go around. You go around the facility, and that will take you to a new organized parking lot area as well. And then we also have dedicated bus and visitor drop-off areas here as well. And this creates a nice entry plaza for the stadium as well on this end. As we were looking through and talking with the city and various people, just understanding that having the road right in front of the stadium with the traffic flowing back and forth just creates a little bit of a concern for pedestrians as you're entering and exiting the stadium. So really trying to push that vehicular traffic away from the front of the building as much as we can. Introducing new pedestrian sidewalks. So currently a lot of the existing conditions have just basically you're walking on the road and there's really no sidewalks out there. So introducing some more permanent sidewalk adjacent to the road so people can use those. We are looking at adding a sidewalk that ties down to, the Pawnee Plunge and the Legion Field, so you can utilize that overflow parking when you have larger games or larger events. We also are looking at providing, and future potential is part of the master plan for this park was to provide more parking to the south across the creek there. And then as we get closer into the stadium itself, looking at a Burger Bash area, so we know it's a well-attended and used space and a place before and after events. So providing a dedicated area for that with direct access for the trucks that are servicing that, or food trucks or whatever may come to fruition there. And then on the opposite side, having more of a dedicated kind of media parking area. We know some of the local media outlets like to simulcast the games and whatnot, so having a dedicated area for them to be able to park their larger trucks to help support those operations. And then one last item we are looking at and potentially is the existing restroom building for the tennis courts is just in pretty rough shape. So when we get into the design of the actual stadium, we are looking at how can we add restrooms, a portion of the restrooms that the stadium serve, but also open those up to the rest of the park. So then that way the stadium restrooms will be able to be accessed for people who are using the tennis courts or the horseshoe pits or anything else further to the west there. Any questions on the site plan?
You remove the handicap area?
So
To the north?
yep. So this whole, sorry, my mouse is not working. So we will be redoing and adding all handicap area, and yeah, this area is completely removed. And then, as we'll get into the plans here, we're integrating that into the stands, and then we have another area, an upper concourse that we're looking at adding additional
Okay.
ADA seating, fully accessible seating. So, yeah, really trying to pull and provide the same experience for those who need to use, who have the disabilities, to be able to have that same experience that everyone else has. So instead of kind of pushing them off to the north side of the stadium. So
How many parking places did you have in the area?
$300. Yep. So I think we have 300 that we'll have. So currently it's kind of a free for all. So there's really no like. we heard that pretty much from everyone that we talked to. So this will bring a lot more organization.
You need to go early so you can get someplace to park. Yeah.
And that way people don't get like triple parked in and whatnot. And the intent is we can maximize the space a lot more than just kind of leaving it up to however it happens on that given event day. So.
Was there some bus parking area out in that red area?
Yep. So we have it noted. This could be, I mean, we could keep the buses here, or else the real intent is as the teams are arriving from their schools or the visitor teams would be on the other side because potentially, or they would be able to drop off. They all would be able to drop off here. And then that would also be able to be used by anyone who would be using the stadium. So. And then as far as permit, like when they're parked during the games, we haven't specifically discussed that at this point, but we can determine and look at some other places, trying to get those away from the facilities. I think a lot of the times they'll park in the plunge parking lot, from what I understand. So. Any other questions? All right. So then we'll dive into the plans, and then we'll also, as we look at the plans, we're also starting to think about phasing approaches for the project too. This is not like the approach or whatnot. This is just kind of, as we've talked through this, what makes the most sense where we're at right now. Again, we're at very early conceptual design stage, so we'll be working through schematics, so we can get a little bit further definition and a little bit more refined of an estimate as we get into the next kind of phase of the project here. So here's the existing floor plans. So we have the existing stadium to our plan south, and then we have the red line, and then that addition I talked about earlier, that's what we're proposing to be removed, just not holding up. And then as we'll look at the reconfiguration, it just allows for a little bit more flexibility with the new design with that pulled off. But the intent is to maintain the original stadium. We'll do some renovations to the interiors, but really just maintain that as a whole. So phase one, as we've gone through our discussions, is really looking and focusing on that Burger Bash area. So being able to provide that in the location here, showing a paved area with we've talked about picnic tables, whether they be permanent, movable, some sort of covered structure over it, and then some ancillary storage and some trash amenities too on this end, as well as access for any trucks or deliveries that would need to help accommodate the activities for that area. Then the second phase we would be looking at is really starting to dive into the site amenities, and phase 2 and phase 3 could happen at the same time, depending on how everything kind of shakes out. But really, due to needing to expand and get the existing road out of the way, looking at pushing that road further north, starting to get the site set up for that phase 3, which then really starts to get into the building renovations and construction side of things for the existing facility. So then with phase 3 and 4, really starting to look at how this all pulls together here as far as the plan goes. Adding on the addition, doing renovations to the existing stadium itself. And then as it starts to get into looking at potentially we're looking at an upper concourse level as well. And then the press box and crow's nest as part of this phase. So this would be the biggest phase out of all of them. So just zoomed in a little bit further on the plans here. Just wanted to walk through the plans themselves. So looking at having we'll have a dedicated central entrance. Currently there's 2 entrances as we talk through design. Just having one centralized entrance is desired just from a ticket taking standpoint and access control. Having a really large concourse area, so as you get those influx before or after events, people have a place to gather and then kind of go off through the existing walkways up to the stands, or else we are proposing a new stair with an elevator to able to access that upper concourse, which we'll look at here in a second. Within the first floor, the newer addition area, looking at a larger concession area that not only has concession window towards the enclosed area, but also we've talked about potentially having another window that goes out to the park. So when you do have events in the park itself or a tennis event or whatnot, you could open up the concession stand, but you don't have to open up the rest of the entire building to be able to service the park itself. So you really have some flexibility built in there. Same thing on the restrooms themselves. So the men's restroom and the women's restroom. We do have a sectioned off area within each of these where we don't want to open up. This is showing all the code required basically for the stadium, but from a public standpoint, we don't want to open up everything to the public. You have to maintain more stuff, more things could break, whatnot. So sectioning off a portion of those restroom facilities that could be opened up and be accessed for those who, like I said, using tennis facilities, horseshoe, that side of the park, whatever it may be. So they can always have access there. And that would in turn, our idea is to be able to replace the existing kind of dilapidated tennis restroom facility there. We did have conversations last week with Columbus High, and they noted that they do have some storage in there too, so maybe that building is maintained, but it just turns into pure storage. Those are discussions that we'll certainly continue to have on there. So within this, so that's kind of the new half. Oh, sorry, my mouse is not working today. We are proposing to have basically a throughway. So this would be for pedestrian or public traffic way, so they can get out to either side. And then also we have an exhibit display area that seems like the high schools are pretty excited about, as well as whatever the city would want to exhibit display as far as history of the stadium and any important events that have happened there. But then that would lead out to the stands themselves. Within the existing stadium itself, looking at doing renovations to where we would have 2 locker rooms. So one for a home, one for a visitor. We've talked about maybe one is dedicated to high and one's dedicated to SCOTUS. Then the visitors could be on the opposite sides, whatever that may be. Within each of those locker rooms, we'll have showers and toilet facilities for the players, as well as an athletic trainer room. That was something that was noted, that just a space right now. I think they just have a table that's out in the middle of the locker room, but actually having a dedicated space for that, as well as a coach and storage area as well. We would essentially use the existing exits on either end for the players to be able to exit out, so we don't have any player public crossing during those times. Currently, they kind of all can meander out through the same entries and exits, so you get a little bit of a lapse there on that end. So we'll be able to kind of control that a little bit more as far as those activities go. And then our lower head height areas here on the plan south, though, that would just be turned into dedicated storage areas, enclosed storage areas. Right now, they're kind of open storage areas within there. So said a lot.
Had you thought about anywhere for officials?
So the officials currently are in the visitor building, the shared building. So the intent, I believe, is to continue to have them on that side, which, talking with High last week, they confirmed that that's a really good place for them, so they don't have to kind of congregate with potential upset folks, so. But, no, good question.
Where will you buy your tickets? I don't see any place where you would sell tickets.
So that's something, yeah, we'll work through. I believe as we've talked with them, a lot of them are going, a lot of schools, and we'll confirm with High and SCOTUS and the city, going to just purely digital as far as ticket sales go. We can add, my mouse is not working.
Can you sell them out of the concession window?
Yeah, I think we can look at concession windows. We can look if we wanted a dedicated, I know there's a dedicated ticket sales window right now. It's just one of those is, do you put one in now and in 5 years, is that obsolete? No one's gonna be using that anymore, and then you have a window that is not used? Or do we find a solution that can work for both? So we'll continue, but that's a good note. We'll continue to look into.
How are you handling ticket sales?
Just ask that question.
You didn't say, you weren't very loud.
Yeah, so we're looking at digital. I mean, as we've discussed, what's been talked about is digital tickets. So you don't need per se a ticket booth anymore per se. I think there's still half that does use it, half that doesn't. So looking at it, maybe there's a semi-temporary solution that we can incorporate into the design here up towards the entrance to allow for that. So. Yep. Any other questions on the plan so far? All right, well, so then we're gonna go up one level and show what we have proposed to date at this level. So this is an upper concourse essentially is what's being created. So it's a little bit higher than the top of the existing original stadium right now. So looking at creating really a platform that then can house the press box, but then also just have an open area as well. So this is a good opportunity to look at. So as far as ADA accessible seating for the stadium, what we're proposing is we'll be modifying towards the center, the existing stadium slightly, so then we can provide those spaces. So those who want to sit lower can sit lower, but then we're also looking at providing, with that new elevator and access, providing additional ADA accessible seating areas on this upper concourse. So we're really giving a variety for everyone to be able to choose and decide how they want to experience the event or the game that's going on at the stadium. Along with this, we'll have the press box itself. So the current press box in Crow's Nest we would remove. It's kind of built right on top of the existing stands. The stands underneath of it are still good to go, so we would just tear that off, add some seats onto where the press box is, and then you gain a little bit more capacity within the stadium right off the bat. And then with the press box, just talking with, as we went through the master plan previously for the park, and then also reconfirming that with our discussions to date, understanding that looking at having a visitor coach's box and a head coach box that's separate, a radio room, a press TV room, and then a scoreboard / PA area. So having all of these spaces separated and dedicated. Right now they're kind of all in one space. I think there's really tiny areas for the home and visitor coaches. They end up, I think some of them might end up going to the Crow's Nest just to kind of keep that divide there. So, but these will be full areas that they can get in each of the coaches' box, probably 3 to 4 people, very nicely with the countertop and everything. Within the press box area as well, looking to have IT closet for the scoreboard amenities and whatnot. We have some racks and whatnot that system does have, as well as looking at production room. So when you do have those student groups who are doing simulcasts, or you have local news stations or visiting news stations, whatnot, if they are simulcasting the game, they would have a little production area that they can run their event out of. We have a little single-person restroom on this level as well, and then the elevator shown here would have access. The press box itself is about 5 feet higher than the concourse, just so we get everyone elevated, so you can get your views down properly to the field. And then the concourse itself also has its own stops, so the elevator would have 3 stops throughout there. And then we do have a new stair that would be added to access a portion of the press box roof that would act as the crow's nest. So for game filming or whatnot, that would be fully accessible as well. So, any questions on the upper press box concourse area? Okay. So that gets us through where we're at currently with the plans, and then just wanted to take a real quick view of kind of what we're looking at as far as the exterior design goes. Really at this stage, we're just looking at kind of forms, massing, how everything is tied together, eventually how it would all look once all phases are somewhat built out. The next phase will start to get into some materiality and start to get it a little bit more refined. But just right where we're at right now, it's really just kind of some simple massing that will show kind of the form and how the spaces start to feel. So some axon views of the existing facility. We start to bring in that phase 1, so that Burger Bash. You start to see how this thing can start to be built out. Phase 2, start to add the site work in and modifications for those improvements. And phase 3, that's when the big chunk of the project would take place, where we tear off the 2000s edition, build that upper concourse area along with the renovations inside the stadium and the new addition with the press box and the crow's nest. And then what we've looked at also is potentially a canopy as well on the upper concourse. So we're working with, we have our structural engineer on our team, been working with them to verify. We can add this at a later date. It does come with a price, just with everything else does. So trying to break out as much pieces as possible, but we've come up with a solution that allows this to be added later on down the line if need be. And then future, just always thinking, trying to think way into the future is possibility for additional seating. So we have set it up where we could add a whole nother section. If I can get my mouse to show up. A whole nother section of seating here, with potentially on the upper concourse to add even more seating. So again, that's a future thing, but we just want to make sure that we're accounting for the ability to expand the stadium if the need is there and the desire is there. So I'll just flip through a couple of our renderings we have developed to date. So really looking at, you can see how the upper concourse ties into the Burger Bash area. So really trying to create a stadium environment, really create a amazing place for, as people arrive, people are visiting from other towns or whatnot. We've extended a canopy kind of along the whole entire concourse area, or walkway up to along the Burger Bash and up to the main entry of the stadium. And then you can see how the canopy could potentially start to integrate into the facility as well. Another view from the field, so looking at the Burger Bash area on the left, with that concourse overhang kind of towards the center there with the canopy, and then the stadium seating and new press box area. And a little bit of a closer view of that Burger Bash area. We've really left that center area as open as possible, so when you do have those before and after, typically more after, we can open up the gates. The whole perimeter would be secure with new, or not new fencing, but tying into the existing fencing to create a secure perimeter for ticketing and whatnot. But then at the end of events, you can open up a variety of gates to really allow for a lot of people to exit at once.
Have you thought about the existing lighting on the home field side, where that
Yep.
would go?
So once we get to that phase 3, we would need to modify and shift the lighting that's there, just with the new additions on it, so. And at that time, depending, I believe the lights are newer. I don't think were LEDs put in. So at that time, I mean, that's what everyone's going to is LED fixtures. So at that time, it could just be a decision. Do you retrofit the existing poles with new LEDs or just a straight relocation of the existing? And then here's another view of that kind of entry walkway that partially is covered, that leads you from the Burger Bash if you're coming from the south and heading north towards the new main entry. So really a nice pedestrian dedicated walkway to allow pedestrians to walk right along the new facility. Then entering over into the plaza area, so starting to look at what this potentially could be with some branding opportunities and whatnot at the new main entry to the facility, along with that little covered canopy and then the larger canopy above. So. And then just from a view standpoint, so this is looking from the facility out, so we get an idea of what the views would be. So this is from that upper concourse area, so it's a little bit, probably 2 or 3 feet higher than your top row of your bleachers right now. So you have a little bit more of an elevated view up there. From the press box, coach's box, so again, we're elevated a little bit higher just so we can, if there's anyone there using the accessible seating areas or whatnot, or standing there watching any event, it's not providing an obstruction to the field for those needing to view and use it. And then another one that's a little bit higher from the crow's nest, so we get an overall view of the entire field, and making sure that canopy won't impede and extend over in a detrimental way to videoing or viewing the action that's going on. And then one last item on the kind of conceptual side of things, our mechanical electrical consultant, Morrissey Engineering, is on our team as well. One thing that we've been looking at, just because this is a multi-use facility by multiple different entities, is how can we efficiently be able to brand the stadium to whoever's using it, whether it be High or SCOTUS or a fundraising event or some city activity. Something that we've been talking is through the use of colored LED lighting to be able to easily switch and brand based on whoever's using the facility at the time. This is done, Morrissey just recently completed this. If anyone's been to Millard's new shared stadium, Buell Stadium, they have it all set up where they can do the light shows and everything. But also brand it because Millard West, Millard North, and South do use that facility. That's their one centralized shared field for the district there. So just again a concept to be able to look into a little further as we get into schematic design, how that can actually be implemented into this facility to really make those game days and different events a special feeling for those coming to the game. Any questions so far? Nope.
The lighting idea is awesome because it really could help brand that facility for a given event. But obviously you're looking at, wanting to do the lighting kind of when it's done. Is there a way that you could incorporate the beginning of the lighting in phases? You're gonna continue, if this thing would move ahead, it's gonna move ahead in phases, and maybe all of a sudden those phases are X amount of years to get done, where that lighting could be a really unique thing and neat thing early on in this project. Could it be phased in and then expanded as the project expanded?
Yeah.
It's just an idea and a thought.
Yeah.
Because you look at some of these in Millard, I've seen that concept, and it's pretty amazing to see that stadium look really neat for that school that's utilizing it,
Yep. Yeah, there's a link on here, and we can share that too, of it kind of in action when someone scores a touchdown or whatever. The lights go crazy. They have the LED field lights too, so they can turn those on and off like instantly, kind of like they do at Memorial Stadium down in Lincoln too. So, but yeah, no, I definitely, there's a way we can start to incorporate some of those entities, the lighting earlier on. I think that's definitely a plus to start to build support, so.
Could you give me a little more information on the Burger Bash area? Where did it come from? I don't see it in any of the needs assessments or the information that you provided here. Why is the Burger Bash area included?
So that was something that we understood was an event that happens pretty much at every single game, and not just game, it sounds like it happens on other areas too. And it's really just right now, I believe it's just a grass space where they bring out picnic tables and they bring them back and forth. So really trying to provide something that the city uses a lot.
Councilman, I could probably
Yep.
help.
Yep, go ahead.
It is actually the socialization that happens before every game, and it's grown and grown and grown. It's high school tailgating.
No, I understand
school
that.
program.
I just didn't see it in any of the needs.
Well, I think it might have been assumed. It might have been an assumed need because, like I say, every high school event or every high school football game, that really becomes the kickoff of that event. And as they're mentioning, more and more things that are using the stadium that are, for other activities are actually incorporating a Burger Bash or something like that. So I mean, the point being is it's really become a part of the stadium and grew on its own. I mean, I'm sure that was the assumption anyway.
Yeah, and we've even talked about, okay, how can we use this not just for the Burger Bash entity? I mean, we talked about there's city marathons and whatnot, races, that could be the starting stop point. That could be the place where everyone, kind of the operations runs out of too, so they can start to run out of that. It really can serve as multiple purposes, so it's not just one thing or the other, but it is something that, is used heavily, especially by this community, so.
Is the public allowed to, do I need to go up there? So they can hear you. Brad Hanson, 22 Lottie Lane. A couple things. The Burger Bash area is also a very heavy fundraiser for the Booster Club, so that's also something to consider. The site, however, is also heavily used by the track teams when they come in for invites. Well, I can still use the area with the picnic tables and concrete and everything there. Keep in mind that might be a minor stumbling block because it is heavily used by the teams because they set up their tents and everything there. Regarding the tennis situation, did you have a place, because there's currently part of the current restrooms, a tennis equipment area storage? You did think of that? Okay. Those are my 2 points. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yep, that was something that was brought up to us by High at our meeting last week, that they do use that for storage, and some of the community organizations do use that for storage. So potentially, we'll go in and take another look at that building, and maybe we take the restroom still out of it, just from a maintenance standpoint, and just where they're at, and maybe that can become a storage, all storage. So you might even get to expand it potentially. So something on the table though, but. Great.
I think
You need to come to the mic.
This is kind of for Prince. Did you, I saw some plans for an elevator. Did you show an elevator?
Mr. Green, would you identify yourself, please?
Oh, Bill Green, number 2 Beaver Lodge Road, Columbus, Nebraska.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Question?
The question was, is there plans for an elevator?
Yes.
There are plans for an elevator.
Yeah, we have an elevator schedule. I'll go back to that real quick. So this area right here is, this X here is our elevator.
Is what plan, is that phase 1, phase 2?
Phase 3. So when you do this facility, when you upgrade the
above.
the
second
above and you do the renovations to the stadium itself, that's when that would
Okay.
take place. So,
All right.
with the
Thank you.
building construction. Yep. All right. Any other questions? Oh, all good. All right. So with that, so we basically took all of this information and put it into a submittal that was then sent off to a third-party cost estimator, and came back with some high-level estimates of costs of each of these phases as we had them broken out. So really looking at, just from a construction standpoint, the Burger Bash, anywhere from that 350 to 500,000, depending on kind of, and all of these I will disclaim, that's all dependent on kind of what elements and what level of detail and finish and materials that are at the final being proposed. But just at a high level where we're at right now, site improvements, that phase 2 would be between 3 and 4 million. Again, depending on how many trees and how much paving we build out into that. I did want to make one quick correction on the parking count. Andrew was able to confirm that the new area would be 150 stalls, and that adds 150 that's on the other side. So you have 300 stalls plus whatever's at the plunge, which I'm not entirely sure how many are there, but there's a lot more. So.
And you talked about the parking being a free-for-all, which you're 100% correct. But is this going to be concrete, or is it that oil mat again?
So the intent right now with where this budget is, it's for concrete. So the road would be concrete, the parking lot would be concrete. It just lasts a lot longer, and in our climate that we're in, it'll withhold and stand up.
Well, and part of the reason it's a free-for-all is because you're trying to dodge the potholes and the puddles.
Yep.
So,
Yep, so.
good, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Pothole-free parking is what we would propose, so. So site improvements, stadium renovation, that would be the biggest chunk, obviously the most work with the building itself, so anywhere in that $7.5 to $9 million range. The canopy itself, we talked about, this could be added on later, at a later date. We can detail it out to where it could be basically the structure set up to support that at a later date. So I'm looking anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million to add that structure and the canopy itself. And then looking ahead, that future seating that we talked about as well, so that little infill area, the number 5 there, another $500,000 to $750,000. If you take everything all together and start to look at it as far as what we're showing currently today, anywhere from that $12 to $15 million range for the full build out itself is where we're looking at right now. So, and obviously, as we talked about, we want to be able to chunk this off into bite-sized pieces, and if we need to go even further as we start to look into it, that's definitely an opportunity and an option that's on the table as well. So.
You mentioned that the facility has got some leakage. What do you project that would be to be a problem? At what point?
I think it's a problem right now.
Okay.
So where the 2000s edition was tied into the original stadium, it basically was just flashed into, basically carved out and flashed into the existing stadium, and then it's just like sealant is really the only thing that's keeping the water out, which isn't doing a very good job right now. There's also some, just from the original stadium itself, there's a kind of a gutter system that was installed just to try to temporarily to help with when it rains. There are control joints in the stadium itself, so it does kind of rain inside when it rains outside. There's some amenities, but we would look at adding some flashing and control joint over the existing joints too. So we really start to create more of a watertight facility, so you don't have as many of these issues. I know right along that edge, the ceiling tiles and whatnot there in the restrooms are constantly being just kind of barraged with water and a constant maintenance item, so. But that's really the main thing, and what we're proposing is we build it up a little higher so we can actually build the new over top of the existing stadium, which will help with that water drainage connection point issue, so.
Comment?
Yep.
I was very favorably impressed with the overall concepts, the ability to phase those concepts in this presentation. Thank you very much.
Yep, not a problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we appreciate your time.
Oh,
What is the next step?
next step. Sorry,
Oh, he's not done?
30 seconds.
Oh,
I'll be short.
I thought when we got to the money, we just stopped.
It's usually where it ends, yeah. So just on our end, just so
Apologies.
everyone's aware. This is our overall schedule of what we've done as far as community engagements in green. We really have two phases on the design side for our efforts right now. So we're about halfway in the middle of our schematic design, so we've been working a little bit. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be putting together another full submittal with a lot more detail and whatnot, and then we'll have that sent to our third-party estimator again. And then really the intent is to have, we'll be presenting those findings and updated numbers and whatnot at a more granular level at the December 16th City Council meeting, so. And then following that, we'll kind of wrap everything up, put it in a nice, pretty package, and be able to have that as a deliverable. So if there are fundraising or the next steps after that, you'll have a nice, clean, concise presentation to be able to send out to the community as well. So, any other?
Where in here would you think that, Councilman Schilling asked about more public input and engagement? Where would you see that fitting to try to, have that outreach and that input?
Yeah. I think if we wanted to, we can work with Betsy and her group to get it out immediately. We get it out this week again. We'll put together using some more of the questions that we've used in the past, just so we have a consistent basis, but there's no reason why we can't continue to push out the surveys. They were very broad surveys as far as what's needed, what's working, what's not working. Trying to think of the word. Do you agree with the potential new stadium and whatnot? So, but we can get those out and back. And I know they were posted on your website and Facebook and everything along those lines. And I think we left a few around City Hall here too. If there's any other events that make sense for us to be at too, I mean, we can do that for sure, so.
Just my opinion, I think as we get closer to phase 3, when it comes to the actual design of the stadium, we could probably do a few more open houses and have conversations as we get closer to doing a phase 3.
Yep.
Which a lot might change between now and when we can realistically do that, so.
Yeah, we're at the very, very early stages of the design process, so it's all lines on paper. Those are easy to change. We can modify as much as we need to, so. That's all I had.
I'll try this again. Any other questions? If not, we thank you for your
All right, thank you,
time,
everyone.
and we look forward to the January 16th, and see where we go from there.
Thank you.
What's that? Meeting adjourned. Thank you. What? I guess.
How much of it is me not being able to hear very well?
What?
I have a problem hearing the person who's podium. I have a problem
you know, the closer you get, the more louder it gets, see? And it's,
That's exactly the point that I'm trying
that's
to make.
right. No, we hear you loud and clear.
Okey dokey, enough, all right?
Blow out the speakers here.